When developing a new product in the tech market, it is all too easy to base your assessments of the market's needs on your own paycheck, especially if you have a nasty case of cognitive dissonance. So, as you develop new products, try to be mindful of the benefits you have in mind while creating your product, and also while marketing it once it has been developed. In this video, I am going to be pointing out a few pitfalls which should be avoided in touting your new product's benefits. Let's get started. Assumptions and ableism are the first pitfalls to avoid in the marketing plans for your product. Most tech startups believe that the ability to do anything and afford anything that we want you to spend money on is paramount. This belief is based on the assumption that these skills are essential as businesses evolve and industries transform. The need to support the economy is rooted in the actual ability to support the economy, and most consumers aren't paid enough to do that. The perspective of ableism is equally troubling, as the developers assume that their customers can do everything that a normal person with an endless supply of money can do. We must remember that even those who are not handicapped by disabilities might be handicapped with crippling anxiety, or are just plain introverts who don't want to be among other people. The old adage that money doesn't buy happiness is being torn down easily today by everybody except those who have lots of money. The suggestion that owning your product will make consumers happy is pointless when those consumers can't afford to do any of the things that your product enables. Remember, when we talk about affordability, please keep in mind that income levels for most Americans has not increased since 1970, and most family incomes have been decreased through attrition and enforced job changes. Meanwhile, even the cost of fast foods has increased dramatically since the beginning of this decade, while income levels have not.
There are always pain points to talk about in these videos, so hold still, this won't hurt for long. Before we delve into strategies, let's recognize common pain points caused by assumptions and ableist perspectives, such as missed opportunities for growth, caused by lack of awareness that most Americans are underpaid. When you talk about the fact that your product can help its owners schedule a reservation at a restaurant or book a flight, try to keep in mind that most Americans can barely afford to eat their fill in fast food and commute to work on public buses. Actual air travel is beyond our imagination, not the logistics of arranging for it. Also, restaurants which require a reservation are beyond most consumers' pay grade, so features which support such behaviors are useless to most Americans. Stress and reduced productivity caused by an inability to cope with shifting and cumulative priorities. When considering the subscription rates for your services, try to keep in mind that most consumers are saddled with several subscriptions from other products, services, and websites. Your bill being added to that simply adds to the crippling financial burden that people must live under. And finally, difficulty in meeting customer demands and market trends, which leads to lower performance. If you spend your entire career underneath a stack of collapsed boxes, like this poor sap here, you will never achieve success. However, if you persist in assigning top-tier benefits to the features of your products, you will alienate the majority of your expected consumer base. Regarding common people as cattle doesn't help either. As long as you stack boxes to unsafe heights and continue to stand under them, you will never achieve a work-life balance. There is no such thing, so get over it.
Here are some pro tips to enhance your use of assumptions. Stay curious. Find out what consumers actually want by actually asking them. Remember that the notion of a Gemba walk, in which managers try to find out why things aren't working in factories by actually getting up from their desks and going to the place where the work was actually done, wasn't developed until 1966. The notion of management by walking around wasn't mentioned in business practices until Hewlett-Packard referenced it in 1970. Don't be afraid to get up from your drafting board and go talk to the people in the market. Practice better use of assumptions. In navigating our world, humans must make assumptions about their environment and the people around them in order to make mental notes about our assessments of the world and have pre-considered options for how to respond to interactions with the world and the people in it. Don't speak of your assumptions until they have been tested or queried for supporting information, but be prepared to quickly change your perspectives and assumptions to changing circumstances and new information. Placing your ill-informed assumptions in your marketing statements will remind the majority of your consumer base that you have already decided who they are and that you aren't thinking about their actual needs and are instead prioritizing a higher economic goal than they can reach. Effective communication. Don't tell people about your uninformed assumptions until you have evidence to support them. Starting a conversation with ill-informed assumptions about your listener will make every conversation awkward, as the listener will begin to assume that you won't listen to anything they say, and there's no point in responding to any of your questions or inquiries, as you have made it clear that you have already formed your opinion about them and have probably already answered your own questions anyway. Now, let's see an example of what happens when the market doesn't apply the notions of adaptability. Don't panic. In his 1981 novel, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Douglas Adams described a planet called Frogstar World B, in which the civilization collapsed because the declining quality of shoe manufacturing caused consumers to need to spend a great deal more of their incomes, and therefore their lives buying new shoes to replace the last pair which didn't last long enough, and department stores needed to increase their shoe departments to keep up with increasing demand, and other retail outlets needed to switch from selling the varied products which made up the rest of the planet's economy and become a shoe store until the entire planet's economy was based on nothing else but the manufacture and sale of shoes in what became known as the Shoe Event Horizon. By the time Zaphod Beeblebrox arrived on the planet, everybody was dead except for the passengers of a Starliner plane, which kept them in suspended animation until a new civilization could develop to restock the plane with lemon-scented napkins for the flight. One last note. Do not attack reviewers who speak harshly or critically of your products when they review them. We trust the reviewers because they assess the products impartially, not because they are loyal to the companies who provide the products they review. If we find that a reviewer has been pressured by the manufacturer to provide a good review in spite of evidence to the contrary, then we will lose faith in that reviewer and hold the company who attacked them in contempt.